Hi everyone, it's time for our JenTalk on sociology and overview. This is my opportunity to share with you the general underpinnings of what sociology is so that your class will make more sense to you. First of all, when we define sociology, we just need to know that it's really the study of society. Anytime you see that ology at the end, you know it's study of. And soci means society. Sociologists focus on how and why social groups do what they do. Those groups can be smaller groups of 2 or 3 people, families, schools, communities, or they can be entire global societies. All fit into what sociologists are interested in. So, sociology is different from psychology in that we're not focused on the individual so much as how individuals interact as a larger group or society. Sociologists also tend to focus on social inequality and social institutions. So we're interested in why some groups have life experiences that are not the same as others because they don't have access to the same resources. So issues of poverty, racism, sexism, etc. We're also interested in how we are shaped and how we experience social institutions like education, family, the mass media, schools, politics, the economy, the workplace, etc. We also use empirical methods to study societal phenomena. So we don't just go out and make guesses. We study using surveys, experiments, secondary analysis of research, etc. So we are as empirical as any of the other sciences that you're familiar with. In order to understand sociology, I think there are 10 key terms that you need to know. And if you know those, you'll have a pretty good understanding of your local sociologist and the way they're thinking. First of all, sociological imagination, maybe the most important of all sociology terms. It talks about or refers to seeing human experiences through the lens of society rather than the individual. So when we think of depression, rather than focusing on how an individual experiences depression and the neurotransmitters that are impacting their depressive state, for example, we see depression from a public health issue standpoint, for example. Unemployment is not just the joblessness of one person, but it's the financial strain on a larger economy when unemployment is common or rampant or frequent among certain groups. Suicide, again, is not just an individual experience, but a sociologist looks at it maybe as a response to societal factors, like an increase in cyberbullying among teens, leading to an increase in suicide, for example. A second very, very important term in sociology is socialization. And it isn't referring to what it's like to socialize with your friends or people at work. It's really about how we think and behave, or how we learn to think and behave appropriately within our cultures. So we're all socialized by our families, our schools, our peer groups, and even the media. And through those socialization processes, we learn what's good, bad, right, wrong, what's polite, what's impolite, etc. And notice as you move from one culture to another, those things change. And because the socialization process isn't really a lesson where someone says A, B, and C, but they engage in those behaviors and scold you or praise you when you engage in them. When you go to another culture where norms and values are different, you experience culture shock because you have not yet been socialized to understand how to think and behave appropriately within that new culture. So let's then talk about norms and values and roles because we learn those through socialization. Norms are simply expected behaviors. The behaviors that you're expected to engage in are normal or the norms within your society. And when you go against those norms and behave in another way, you're being deviant or behaving in a deviant way. Norms change over time, and therefore what we consider to be deviant changes over time. It used to be deviant to have tattoos. It's now become a norm. Values are really focused on our beliefs and our attitudes. There are notions regarding what's good or bad, ugly or beautiful, acceptable or unacceptable, etc. So the things that we feel like we know are okay or right or good or attractive that we've learned through the socialization process with our peers or our family, through the media or friends, those values go at the core of what we think is good or right. And we learn those through socialization as members of our culture. And when we change cultures or visit other cultures, we need to at least learn the values of the new culture, whether we adopt them or not. Roles then are important. They refer to our social positions in life that a person occupies, like a parent, teacher, son or wife, accountant, professor, nurse, pastor. Our roles possess expected behaviors associated with that social position. So there are normative behaviors we're expected to engage in as a mom, a CEO of a company, a nurse practitioner, an accountant, a social worker, etc. There are roles with expected norms, and oftentimes with those, we have or develop values that are associated with those roles. So the roles are the behaviors associated with those labels that we talked about. So we learn our norms, values, and our roles in life through the process of socialization. Now let's talk about some more key terms. I mentioned earlier that sociologists really focus a lot on social inequality. Well, another word for that is social stratification. It's really a societal hierarchy, or the way groups of people are valued more or less than others. So people with more money have more value within a society than people with less money. We also see social stratification with gender, sex, race and ethnicity, etc. And so people who have greater access to opportunities because of their ethnicity or race are experiencing that same social stratification. In fact, this relates to the next very important concept, maybe the second most important after sociological imagination, and that's life chances. Life chances refer to the likelihood that an individual or group will have access to resources needed and desired to succeed and thrive. So when a child is born, they're born with certain life chances, and those life chances over their life can change. For example, when I was born to parents that lived at or below the poverty level. They both had high school educations, but did not have any college. One was unemployed and going to school, and the other one had part-time employment. My life chances were different than they are now, and certainly different from my daughter's. As my parents worked hard and made various choices and exposed me to different communities, my life chances changed. And in many ways, my life chances increased as I was exposed especially to higher educational opportunities. And those opportunities led me to choices that have led me to more work opportunities and more higher paying work opportunities. So my life chances increased, or the likelihood that I would have access to resources like property, food, even going on vacation and having rest and relaxation, or being able to choose to keep a job or leave it, having retirement benefits, medical benefits, etc. Those are all my opportunities toward various life chances. And my daughter has life chances that were higher than mine were when I was born, all because of the place where we are located when we're born or at any time throughout our lives on that social stratification hierarchy. Now, there are some key terms that explain this perpetual inequality that we experience. Stereotypes are those false generalizations or ideas that are understood by others regarding a group of people. Stereotypes rely on characteristics that can seem to resemble true notions about a group, like women are emotional, but are inherently false because they attempt to simplify and describe all members of that group. Prejudice is when we think less of a group of people. So we not only have stereotypical notions about them, but we actually think less of them because of those. We value them less than other groups and therefore perceive them in a negative light. This is prejudice, and now you can see we're getting into values, negative values. Prejudice is linked to values and perceptions of others. Finally, discrimination is when stereotypes lead to prejudices, and based on prejudices, we act against or in favor of someone because of their group membership, because they're female, Hispanic, poor, gay or lesbian, disabled, young, old, etc. We're acting in a discriminatory way. Racism, sexism, homophobia, classism, ageism, ableism, all of these are all examples of the combined effect of stereotypes plus prejudice leading to discrimination. And you can see how they perpetuate social stratification and life chances, or lack thereof. So these top 10 key terms help you understand what sociology is all about. Sociological imagination, socialization, norms, values, roles, social stratification, life chances, stereotypes, prejudice, and discrimination. Keep these in mind, and you'll be in the mind of a budding sociologist.